The Republican Party has gone all in on the truly pathetic claim that Silicon Valley Bank collapsed not because of financial deregulation they supported, but because the bank was woke. In fact, they're desperately trying to prop up Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, the GOP's leading opponent of so-called wokeness, with glowing profiles and easy interviews on Fox News. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. Almost on a daily basis, the conservative movement finds itself grasping for some dumb new culture war issue to get audiences outraged about. They whined about gender-neutral potato head dolls, woke Lego sets, and electric stoves. And now they've moved on to another mindless obsession, washing machines.
First it was your gas stoves. Now the Biden administration targeting your washer, pushing new efficiency standards as part of its global climate agenda.
President Biden's policies may aim to clean the planet, but they'll leave your clothes dirty and smelly.
I think we should attack them on gas stoves. That's the opening, the kitchen wars. Why are dishwashers bad? Why are washing machines bad?
What did I read today? They're going after showers? Wait, they're going after some other goofy thing.
Yeah, washing
laundry.
machines.
Laundry.
Yeah.
Before long, you'll have to say your preferred pronouns to get your dishwasher to work.
First they want my stove, now they want my dishwasher. What's next? They're going to take away my iron next? I don't know.
Yeah, well, look, I'm someone who does lots of laundry. I do laundry for 6 people every week. And so I know a little bit about this. And the last thing I need is my laundry taking longer. I'm already dealing with a low flow shower head, and my kids are coming out with conditioner smashed to their head like an old Seinfeld episode. And I have to tell them to get back in and rewash. I can't even flush my toilet one time to get toilet paper down because of the low flow toilets.
Old Seinfeld episode, you think that's bad? The other day, one of my kids came running out of the bathroom with his pants around his ankles, screaming, "Vandalay, Vandalay!" Thanks to Joe Biden, he lost his job as a latex salesman. Also, are you listening to yourself? If that was the plot of an old Seinfeld episode, then it can't be a new problem. Thanks to Joe Biden's woke policies, Americans are waiting for tables at Chinese restaurants for hours. With that said, I'm all for the Seinfelding of our political discourse. I can't wait for Biden to square off with Trump at the presidential debates. Now listen up, Donald, I got a phone call the other day, and it was the jerk store. No joke, I'm not kidding around. And they said to me, it's the jerk store calling. We're running out of you. Come on, Jack. It's so funny to think that Biden's the Seinfeld now, when during the Obama era, he was definitely the Kramer. What's that? You want to know who everyone is now? Okay, Biden's the Seinfeld, Kamala's the Elaine, Bernie's the George, and Hunter is the Kramer. Jerry, I can't find my laptop! Also, one more tangent here. The only reasonable complaint about modern appliances is this: dishwashers are too quiet now. It used to be you knew when your dishwasher was running, so you never opened it mid-cycle, got sprayed with hot water while your wife yelled from upstairs, "Did you open a running dishwasher again?" forcing you to yell back, "I didn't hear anything!" Anyway, the GOP has no discernible policy agenda aside from whining about wokeness, a term they can't even define. As far as I can tell, wokeness to them just means stuff they don't like. In fact, rather than define the term wokeness for voters, they've already moved on to coming up with newer and even dumber words to describe things they don't like. Ron DeSantis was campaigning in Iowa over the weekend. He tried out this incredibly stupid turn of phrase.
Because woke ideology has infected so many institutions, if you really want to protect the freedom of your folks, you got to be willing to defend them against the left imposing their pathologies on your people in any of these institutions. So we've got to fight if we see it in medicine or the universities or the corporations. You can't just say, let it go, because then we're going to be living under an oppressive wokeocracy.
Oof. Well, that just rolls right off the tongue, wokeocracy. Pretty sure saying that gives you strep throat. The only way this makes sense is if it's a ploy by DeSantis to come up with a new word that's such a mouthful Donald Trump can't pronounce it and then melts down in a debate. You know, Ron, he likes to talk about the waka-crocky. I mean, the waka-crazy. I mean, the waka-coca racy shock. Look, folks, we're living in Wakanda. We have to admit it. We're living in Wakanda, and if we're not careful, it's going to be Wakanda forever. DeSantis' obsession with battling wokeness has made him a subject of fawning profiles and softball interviews on Fox News. On Monday, he did an interview with Fox host Brian Kilmeade where they had a catch at a baseball field.
We're on a baseball field. You've had a busy day, but you wanted to come to this field because it means so much to you, obviously. Even though I'm a soccer player, do you have time for a catch?
Let's do it. I'll do it.
All right,
Yep.
let's do it.
All right.
If not this time to run for president, would you think at some time it's safe to say that that would be one of your goals?
I would only do stuff if I thought there was a rationale for me to accomplish things on behalf of the people. So it's all substance driven about whether I could serve or not serve in a variety of capacities.
Oh, someone get a radar gun on those guys. Somehow during the course of that interview, 3 runners scored. This interview is the worst thing to happen on a baseball field since Randy Johnson exploded that bird. If it had been DeSantis throwing instead of Randy, that bird would have been fine. Light bruising at best. And look, I know that clip is kind of a bummer, so if it helps, that bird would have died of old age by now anyway. I said if it helped. But yes, it's great to see Opie and Sheriff Taylor over here enjoying that old American tradition the fathers and sons have engaged in for decades, putting on your suits and lapel mics for a game of catch in front of a camera crew. Also, of course, Fox picked their saddest, button-eyed bozo, Brian Kilmeade, to have a catch with a politician. Kilmeade's probably been dreaming about this. I would have loved to have seen the pre-interview. All right, we're just going to toss the ball back and forth. I'll ask you about wokeness. And one more thing. Is it okay if I call you Dad? But that's how desperate the leaders of the conservative movement are to embrace DeSantis and his crusade against so-called wokeness. They are a thoroughly unserious political movement, so whining about wokeness is their answer for everything. For example, after the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank last week, Republicans didn't blame financial deregulation or the recklessness of venture capitalist tech bros. They blame wokeness. Senator Roger Marshall called SVB a woke California bank. Donald Trump Jr. tweeted, SVB is what happens when you push a leftist woke ideology. And Senator Josh Hawley tweeted, SVB equals too woke to fail. Yeah, man, I'm tired of all these radical leftist banks taking my money, spending it on woke products like credit default swaps and mortgage-backed securities. The other day, true story, I asked to meet with my banker at Chase, and when I walked in, who was sitting across the desk from me? None other than the new green M&M. And she told me the bank invested all my money in a mutual fund that consists of critical race theory and electric stoves, and then I knew my money was really in trouble when I saw her get up to grab a pen, and she wasn't wearing high heels anymore. She was wearing flats. This has to be one of the silliest talking points I've ever heard in my life. The word woke bank would honestly be so funny if they weren't so deadly serious about it. If a bank can be woke, then that means literally anything can be woke. And GOP senators weren't the only ones pushing this pathetic narrative that wokeness is somehow responsible for a bank run caused entirely by deregulation and reckless venture capitalist tech bros. There was also Fox News, which went so far as to blame the Obama administration for the collapse of SVB.
Remember that after 2008, the Obama administration, Eric Holder, swooped in and imposed DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion standards on the entire financial sector. And that's one of the main reasons our big banks are now increasingly incompetent, and also one of the reasons Americans are so divided by race. Ideologues used the 2008 bank bailout to kill American meritocracy.
That's right. They killed meritocracy so they could replace it with woke-a-cock-a-rocket-cracy. First of all, the 2008 bailout was Bush. Second, do you know how much harder Obama could have been on the banks? He could have nationalized them or restored the Glass-Steagall division between commercial and investment bankings, but he didn't. You think he secretly made them woke, and that's why they're collapsing now. All right, Goldman Sachs, listen up. You're going to have a bailout and keep all the money, but in return, I'm going to make washing machines suck. Or you're not going to try to stop me. Now, as we explained on Monday, the SVB collapse was actually the fault of panicky tech VCs who rushed to pull all their money out and a bipartisan push to repeal financial rules for mid-sized banks back in 2018 that was signed into law by President Trump. In fact, you know who also voted to repeal those Dodd-Frank reforms when he was a little-known congressman from Florida? None other than Ron the Heater DeSantis. That's right. DeSantis voted with Trump to gut Wall Street regulations in 2018, so it shouldn't be surprising at all that DeSantis is now going on Fox News blaming the collapse on, you guessed it, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
I mean, this bank, they're so concerned with DEI and politics and all kinds of stuff. I think that really diverted from them focusing on their core mission.
In fact, this bank was so woke, the CEO went on TV the other day and he had shampoo all over his head. I mean, honestly, is anyone buying this? What's next? Oh my God, are they going to start closing banks for woke new holidays like Festivus? Again, I didn't bring it up. Now, as we noted on Monday, it wasn't just Republicans who supported the push to deregulate. Many centrist Democrats voted to repeal the Dodd-Frank rules, too. Even Barney Frank, whose name was on the original bill, ended up sitting on the board of Signature Bank, which also collapsed, and supported the push to ease some of the financial regulations he passed. You know how crazy that is? That's like if your name was Mike Whirlpool and you wanted to abolish
washing machines.
The few progressives who loudly opposed the changes included Senators Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. In fact, today Warren went on TV to talk about the 2018 law repealing the requirements for mid-sized banks to conduct stress tests, basically tests to make sure that banks have enough liquidity or cash to weather a storm like this one. And when the anchor suggested that banks were doing stress tests on their own and didn't need government regulators to oversee the tests, Warren laughed.
We've had a number of those CEOs on the shows in the last few days, Fifth Third, Schwab. They do their own stress testing. Not everyone was behaving in a risk profile, in a risk manner that Silicon Valley Bank was. That's all.
I'm sorry. I taught school for many, many years, and I did not let my students do their own testing.
Of course not. You can't even let students bring their tests home, or they'll turn an F into an A before they show their parents. And I'm willing to bet Warren was one of those cool teachers who would grill her students, but then give them invaluable life guidance while sitting backwards on a chair. You got talent, Brad, but you got to use it. Now, what do you say we go out back and take a hit off this joint? I know a good spot by the baseball field. Only losers hang out there. The Republican Party has once again revealed itself as a thoroughly unserious political movement by blaming a banking crisis they caused on wokeness, a term they can't even define. To put it politely, Republicans are full of a certain substance you might find sitting in
low-flow toilets.
This has been a closer look.